ever felt stuck, like you're waiting for a sign, a miracle, a door to open? Maybe you've prayed, maybe you've waited, days turned into weeks, and weeks into years, still silence. The truth no one tells you is this: sometimes the silence isn't a delay, it's a mirror. What if you're not waiting on divine timing? The divine movement is waiting on you. What if your next breakthrough isn't hidden in the heavens, but buried beneath your hesitation? Too many people are holding their breath, calling it patience, when it's really fear in disguise. They wait for confirmation, but ignore conviction. They wait for green lights from above, while their feet stay glued to the ground. What if the shift you're praying for will only happen the moment you move? Because sometimes the help you seek has already been sent. It's just waiting for you to act. Faith is often misunderstood as a passive waiting game, a quiet sitting back while divine power does all the work. But that's not what real faith was ever meant to be. Faith was never an excuse to delay, deny, or dodge responsibility. It was never supposed to silence action or freeze ambition. In truth, faith is the ignition, not the brake. It's the fire that drives you forward, not the blanket that keeps you still. Many people say they're waiting on God, but what they're really doing is avoiding what they already know they're supposed to do. They call it trust, but it's really hesitation dressed up in spiritual language. Faith was never meant to replace responsibility. It was designed to fuel it. When someone truly believes in something, their actions follow. You don't just say you have faith that you'll succeed. You start preparing, practicing, showing up. You take the steps that align with what you believe. That's the core truth. Faith without responsibility is just fantasy. You can believe a car will take you to your destination, but unless you get in, turn the key and drive, that belief does nothing. It sits there unused. So it is with spiritual life. You can pray all day, hope all night, and speak scriptures over your situation, but if your hands never move, your feet never step, and your decisions never shift, you'll remain stuck. Responsibility is not the enemy of faith, it's the partner. Together, they create momentum. Faith gives you courage, but responsibility gives you direction. One without the other leads to imbalance. Some people live consumed with faith, but take no ownership of their choices, consequences, or calling. Others are obsessed with control and self-reliance, but lack the vision that faith provides. True transformation requires both. When you accept responsibility for your thoughts, choices, and actions, and then fuel that responsibility with unwavering belief, you become unstoppable. Look at anyone who ever walked in purpose or changed the world. They didn't just believe, they built. They didn't just trust, they toiled. They didn't just wait, they worked while they waited. That's the model. Faith is not the absence of movement. It's the motivation behind it. It says, even when I don't see how, I'll still go. It says, even if the door hasn't opened yet, I'll start building what's on the other side. That kind of faith turns invisible hope into visible progress. And that progress begins the moment you stop hiding behind spiritual sounding excuses and start taking ownership of the part that's yours. People often say, I'm waiting on God, but the uncomfortable truth is that God might be waiting on them to decide, to move, to act, to lead, to try. The moment faith becomes active rather than passive is the moment things begin to shift. Faith isn't magic. It doesn't exempt you from effort. It empowers your effort with meaning, conviction, and trust. It transforms ordinary obedience into extraordinary outcomes. It lifts your responsibility from a burden into a calling. Because when you know the one backing you, you stop walking in fear and start stepping in faith with both hands on the wheel and your foot on the gas. Divine intervention is often romanticized as something that happens entirely outside of human control. A miracle that drops from the sky, a breakthrough that arrives without effort, or a supernatural shift that overrides our circumstances. But in most cases, divine moves are not detached from human action, they are ignited by it. Divine intervention often begins with personal initiative. That means heaven tends to respond to motion not stagnation. When a person steps out in faith, makes a choice, takes a risk, or moves with courage despite uncertainty, they create space for the divine to align, accelerate, and amplify what they started. The initial spark of divine involvement often comes not when someone is idle, but when they dare to act. Throughout history and spiritual tradition, stories of miraculous outcomes almost always follow a person taking some kind of initiative. Whether it's Moses stretching out his staff before the Red Sea parts, or someone stepping into the unknown based on nothing but conviction, the pattern is the same. God meets people in motion. It's not that human effort replaces divine power, but rather that it invites it. Taking initiative signals readiness. It's the proof that a person is serious about their purpose, that they are not waiting for permission to live fully or courageously. That readiness becomes a magnet for divine assistance. It says, I trust what I cannot see, so I will do what I can. That combination of trust and action is often the very thing that triggers intervention from above. Many people are stuck, not because they lack opportunity, but because they are waiting for a supernatural sign before they move. They keep waiting for clarity before taking action. But clarity is often a result of movement, not the cause of it. When you begin, even in small steps, unseen doors start opening. People begin to appear, ideas become clearer, and strength you didn't know you had starts rising. This is not because your actions force divine power, but because they partner with it. Initiative is a form of faith. It says, I believe something greater is possible, and I'm willing to go first. That willingness opens doors to outcomes that are far beyond what effort alone can accomplish. It is also important to understand that personal initiative doesn't mean perfect action. Doesn't mean you know everything or have the whole plan mapped out. It simply means you're willing to start, you're willing to move, try, speak, build, or show up, even when it feels risky or unsure. That's when divine guidance often becomes most visible, when you're already in motion, waiting for something to happen. Before you take action, often results in nothing ever happening. But taking action often results in far more than you could have imagined. That's because divine power loves to work with vessels in motion, not with those who bury their potential in the ground and call it patience. The unseen becomes visible when initiative is taken. The miraculous begins to unfold when human responsibility is embraced. So often, the very help we pray for is already waiting on the other side of a step we've been afraid to take. When personal initiative rises, divine orchestration follows, not because we earn it, but because we align ourselves with the rhythm of how transformation usually works. God works through those who are willing to begin. Delays are sometimes self-imposed through indecision and fear. It's easy to blame external circumstances for the things that haven't happened yet. Lack of resources, timing, other people, or divine intervention. But the truth is, many of life's biggest delays are not caused by obstacles outside of us, but by the battles within us. Indecision is one of the most subtle yet powerful forces of delay. It disguises itself as wisdom, caution, or waiting for the right time. But underneath it often lies fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of success, or fear of stepping into the unknown. When fear goes unchecked, it paralyzes movement. It causes people to stay in the same place mentally, emotionally, or spiritually, while convincing themselves they are being patient or waiting on clarity. Indecision is rarely a lack of options. It's usually a lack of courage to choose. And every time a decision is postponed, momentum is lost. The longer a person stays in limbo, the harder it becomes to act. The mind begins to spiral with what ifs, and each potential path becomes a source of anxiety rather than possibility. The internal dialogue becomes filled with overthinking and self-doubt, which creates a false sense of safety in doing nothing. This mental loop of uncertainty doesn't just delay progress, it slowly erodes confidence. The more you delay, the more powerless you feel. And the more powerless you feel, the more you delay. It becomes a cycle that keeps dreams just out of reach and keeps people trapped in their own mental prison. Fear thrives in silence and in activity. It grows stronger the longer it is left unchallenged. Most people think fear must be eliminated before action can be taken. But the reality is that fear often begins to shrink the moment you move. Action creates clarity, not the other way around. Waiting to be fearless is one of the greatest delays you can impose on your own life. Fear doesn't mean something is wrong, it often means something is important. But when fear is allowed to dominate your decision-making process, it becomes the architect of delay, designing a life that is smaller than what you're capable of living. Delays driven by indecision and fear are not neutral, they are costly. Opportunities have windows. Relationships evolve. Ideas have seasons. What is possible today may not be available tomorrow. Time does not wait for you to feel ready. The longer you take to decide, the more life moves on without you. This doesn't mean rushing or acting recklessly, but it does mean recognizing that clarity is often a reward for movement, not the prerequisite. The choice to move forward is often the very thing that reveals the next step. Owning your power to decide is the beginning of taking back control from fear. It's choosing to trust that movement, even if imperfect, is better than endless hesitation. The future is shaped by action, not anxiety. And while not all delays are within your control, the ones that are demand honesty, courage, and a willingness to let go of the illusion of safety that indecision offers. Choosing to decide, even in fear, is how delay is broken and destiny is activated. Doors don't open until you start knocking. It's more than a proverb. It is a principle of life that separates those who wish from those who act. Many people wait passively for opportunities to arrive, believing that their talent, dreams, or even faith alone will somehow cause things to fall into place. But the truth is, opportunity responds to initiative. No matter how gifted or well-meaning someone is, if they never take action, nothing changes. Knocking symbolizes effort, motion, and intentional pursuit. It is the act of moving toward what you desire instead of standing at a distance hoping it comes to you. Knocking is uncomfortable. It requires courage, especially when you're uncertain what lies on the other side. You might fear rejection, embarrassment, or failure. But doors remain closed by default. You don't gain access to what's behind them until you make your presence known. Life doesn't reward hesitation, it responds to effort. Even the most promising future remains inaccessible to those who never try. Talent without pursuit is wasted potential. Vision without action is a fantasy. Knocking is what turns possibility into progress. Often people wait for a sign or a perfect moment to begin. But most doors are not automatic. They require a push. Waiting too long can cost you the very opportunities you're hoping for. Life is dynamic, windows open and close. Delaying action out of fear or perfectionism leads to stagnation. Meanwhile, someone else with less talent but more initiative may walk through the very door you were waiting on. You must knock not only when it feels safe, but especially when it doesn't. The act of knocking sends a signal to life, to yourself, and to others that you're ready to step into something more. There's also the reality that some doors won't open immediately. You may have to knock more than once. Persistence is part of the process. A closed door doesn't always mean no. It can mean not yet. Those who succeed are often not the ones who found the easiest doors, but the ones who refuse to stop knocking. Repeated effort builds resilience and sharpens clarity. The more you knock, the more you learn. You discover which doors are worth pursuing and which ones lead nowhere. Every knock is a step forward, whether it opens the right opportunity or teaches you to pivot. The mindset of knocking is proactive. It doesn't just believe in dreams, it pursues them. It doesn't just talk about purpose, it chases it. It refuses to let fear of failure become a reason to stay silent. Doors to relationships, careers, breakthroughs, and spiritual growth do not respond to passivity. They open to those willing to act. And often the very act of knocking gives you the confidence and preparation you need to walk through. When the door finally opens, You don't have to know what's behind every door. You simply need the boldness to knock. It's through knocking that clarity comes. It's through pursuit that destiny unfolds. Life waits for no one. It opens for those who show up, take initiative, and make their presence known. Action activates. Alignment, movement, draws the miraculous as a truth often hidden beneath layers of hesitation and overthinking. Many wait for circumstances to line up perfectly before taking a step, believing that once everything is in order, they will begin. But the reality is that alignment often follows motion, not the other way around. Taking action sends a signal that you are ready, willing, and available for growth, change, and opportunity. It shifts the atmosphere around you and within you. As you move, things begin to move with you. Resources show up, clarity increases, and doors begin to crack open. Action is not simply physical movement. It is the intentional response to vision, conviction, and purpose. It means choosing to step forward even when all the answers are not yet visible. When you act in faith, you make space for alignment to occur. What once seemed scattered begins to take shape. Connections that were once unseen start to emerge. The path that was once foggy begins to clear, not because the environment changed first, but because you did. Movement creates momentum, and momentum invites divine orchestration. The miraculous often appears in moments of obedience, not passivity. Waiting for everything to be perfect can keep you stuck in a loop of fear and doubt. But when you move, you participate in the process of your transformation. It's in the doing that confidence grows. It's in the trying that skill develops. You won't always feel ready, but readiness is often a result of stepping out, not a prerequisite for it. When you act with intention, you align yourself with opportunities that only appear to those in motion. There is a deep connection between movement and the unseen realm of possibility. Ideas become innovations when acted upon. Dreams become realities when pursued. The miraculous, by nature, is not always predictable or explainable, but it is often responsive. It shows up when faith is expressed through action. It meets you not in theory, but in practice. Miracles don't hover around stillness. They are attracted to progress. You may not be able to force the outcome, but you can activate the atmosphere by refusing to remain idle. Alignment is not simply about external success, it's also about internal coherence. When you act in harmony with your purpose, values, and identity, your life begins to sink. Confusion loses its power when you move with intention. Procrastination fades when you remember why you began. Taking action is not just about results, it's about becoming. Each step you take reveals more about who you are and what you're capable of. Each act of courage refines your direction and deepens your trust. Action also challenges the narrative of delay. Instead of waiting for miracles, you invite them. Instead of watching life happen, you partner with it. What you pursue begins to pursue you back. The world responds to movement. The divine often meets you in motion. That email you send, that decision you make, that risk you take, they each send ripples outward. They align what's in you with what's waiting for you. The miraculous doesn't fall randomly. It's drawn to those who dare to move first. So, if you've been standing still waiting for a sign, this is it. Movement is not just a strategy, it's a signal. It tells life you're serious. It tells fear you're done negotiating. And it tells the miraculous you're ready. Don't wait for everything to align before you act. Act and alignment will follow. Because the truth is, momentum isn't found in waiting, it's born in the steps you take. And when you move, the miraculous moves with you.